Chapter. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump right into it if you guys are ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
100%.
All right, cool. So I always like to kick things off with a mindset tip. So this month I wanted to talk about taking a break from betterment. And what I mean by that is I think, especially when we're in like these highly competitive sales industries, it's really easy to be like, okay, I have to be doing something else and something more. And more is never enough, right? There's always something else and something else and something else and something else. And so it's really easy to burn out. So what I wanted to do today, as we kick things off, is to encourage you guys to embrace this concept of taking a break from betterment and just being like, let me just take a deep breath here. There's a million things going on, right? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like things are crazier than they were before COVID, like just completely all over the place. People are more distracted. Everything is just feels all over the place. So with that, just being like, okay, let me just take a few deep breaths here. And if I want to take a break and kind of step back for a day or two, a week, whatever it might be, then giving yourself permission to do that. Because the only way you're going to serve other people better is when you're at your best self. And that doesn't happen when we're constantly pushing at 110%, right? So just wanted to kick things off with just that idea, because yes, we always want to be chasing goals and we always want to be improving, but sometimes taking a little bit of a step back and resting has more value than continuing to push forward. So any questions on that piece before I get into the marketing tips?
No. Are you feeling that way because this is a crazy time of year for you also? For some reason or another, the first half of the year is like a sprint that never ends.
It's always crazy. I don't have a season, I don't think. People will ask me, what's the season? I'm like, in digital marketing, there is none. Like, it's constantly like, go, go, go. So
100%.
yeah, it's that's the way it is. But I'll take on, sometimes I take on too much, right? Because I don't want to miss opportunity. And then I get sick or like something happens and it's like, okay, I have to sort of just reckon with, I can't be everywhere and do everything. I can make the best decisions I can, and set boundaries around the time and all that investment, and but also like mentally, right? Not just like stepping away from the office, but like mentally, that's hard for me to do sometimes. So anyways, I like to remind myself of that too.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah. So, all right, so let's get into some of our marketing tips. So today I wanted to go over a few of my top tips that are things that I'm seeing right now that are either hot topics or things that I see that are working well. So the first thing that I want to share is LinkedIn last year. And by the way, LinkedIn is growing and growing and growing. Like, people are in there in droves. I'm seeing a lot of action happen there. I'm making a lot of great connections there. A lot of great referrals are happening there, leads, relationships. It's a really good place to be. So, but they have this tool called LinkedIn Newsletter. Have you guys heard of it?
I've seen adoption, a lot of adoption. Like everybody's inviting me to follow their newsletter.
To follow their news. Yeah. So I think, if Maria, have you heard of this yet?
No.
So it's fairly new. Like, it just came out last year. The part that I like about it is that, as there's an advantage and a disadvantage. So the advantage is that you're taking opportunity where you're already at on LinkedIn and with the audience that you already have. And basically all you're doing is, how you can publish articles on LinkedIn, you can, instead of like a post, you can do an article. But you can take those articles and now you can label them as a newsletter, and you can create newsletters around whatever topic it is that you want. So first thing would be to make it something really specific and juicy and interesting to your target audience, right? Not just like, here's my sales tip of the week. Okay, but why is that interesting, right? Like, what, like, so making it something like super interesting and juicy, because it is starting to catch on, to Alexander's point. And what happens is when you, every time you publish a new article to that newsletter, the people who have chosen to follow your newsletter get an email that says, so-and-so just shared this article with the name of the article, and you get it's right there in their inbox and they get a link to go click it. You'll also get a notification on your LinkedIn that so-and-so just published a new article, blah, 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 whatever the article is. So there's a lot of advantage to that because it's tying into the LinkedIn platform. And maybe if you don't have a huge email list, now you can get some of these articles and thought pieces in front of more audience members. And then, and it seems to do pretty well. I've noticed engagement increase a lot for me on those specific articles when I publish them. They seem to do, so far, they're still doing really well. The disadvantage is, again, you don't own those contacts. So once you're no longer posting on LinkedIn, those email addresses, you don't own them, LinkedIn does. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. So I like to do a hybrid of those where I'm posting on the article on LinkedIn through the newsletter thing, which is helping people see it more often, interact with it more often. Again, as long as it's something that's relevant to them. And then also sending out my newsletters, even using the same article in both places. So that's something, I'm a big fan of duplicating content. I don't like to just create original content everywhere. I want to get the most juice out of every lemon that I produce. So I'm really enjoying that. So any questions on that? On how to use it, what to do with it?
I'll go there and look around and figure it out.
One of the questions I have, and it's always right. So I ask this question a lot, but I'm always looking for a good answer for it. So what if you're not a great writer?
So you can hire somebody to do the writing for you, obviously. You can, if you're better at speaking, sometimes what I'll tell people to do is speak on the topic and then transcribe it. And then, so either you do it or you have somebody on your staff do it, or you hire somebody on Fiverr, or you have an agency, whatever it is, an intern, whoever is helping you with your marketing. You guys can transcribe that and turn that into, obviously you're going to have to reword some of it so that it looks, appropriate for flow, but
Right.
but yeah, you can do that. You can even put media in the newsletters. So let's say if you're like, this is, click here to watch here, I'm going to embed the video or put the video here, that you can click here to watch this, but here's the transcription of the video. And that's another way to do it.
How often are you releasing like your stuff? Forgive me. Your newsletters. There we go. That was the word I was looking for.
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
Yeah. Once a week. Maybe I'll skip a week if I don't feel like I have something of like high value. But I think that's the important thing, is just making sure that, and mine are all about mindset. So haven't even touched the marketing stuff yet, but it's when I think that there's something of value there, a recent blog that I've written or something else like that, something I want to write a commentary on, and then I'll release it. I'll even take old stuff that I have from like 2 years ago, and if I feel like it's still relevant, I'll put it, I might revamp it a little bit, but I'll do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I do a video series called the Small Business Coffee Break, where I interview folks who are smarter than me about topics I know nothing about. And that's because I get asked lots of questions about stuff I have no business answering. And I was thinking what you're saying, and like, it might be a good idea those are usually like 2 to 5 minutes, maybe having those transcribed, maybe having Fiverr create a snazzy blog post and basically trying to increase the viewership of those by releasing them as a newsletter.
Yeah, do it. I would like anything that you can do to take existing efforts that you're making and get the absolute most out of it. I'm a huge fan of that, so that you're not reinventing the wheel, you're not spinning your head, like use what you have and use what you're good at and get the most out of it. But yeah, that's a really good idea.
Awesome. It's your idea, so thank you. But yeah.
Well, you're listening, so there you go.
A lot of great ideas.
Thank you. Well, try that and see how that works. Yeah, that's something that you can do. All right, so that was my first tip. The second tip that I want to talk about is this concept of artificial intelligence, chat GPT. I've touched on this before, but are either of you using this technology yet?
I'm learning how to, in the sense of it, the magic to it isn't the fact that it can do what it can do. The magic is if you learn how to ask it questions, it will give you answers, right?
Right.
But you have to learn how to ask it questions.
Yeah, you have to
Uh,
learn how to ask it questions.
right. And so I'm in the process of just constantly thinking of new ways of asking it questions, testing what the answers are, and then seeing how I can use that, content that it spits out.
Right. Yeah,
So I'm
and
asking it questions all the time. Just like,
that's good.
hey, give me a 30-second pitch for selling general liability insurance to restaurants. See what happens.
Yeah,
Kind of a thing.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I'll try with that too. And then I'll be like, okay, make it more professional sounding, or make it for sound friendlier, or make it for specifically for Miami or whatever, right? Like, and it'll go back and it'll edit what it spit out to be specific for that. So what I want to say to that is be careful with what you guys know this, but just, being careful with what you're using that technology for, because one, you want to make sure that what it's telling you is accurate. I'll use different AI writing services. And for example, it'll spit out a blog article, and in the blog article, it'll say, oh, research shows whatever, but then there's no link to that research. I can't find it anywhere. So like those are things that you gotta kind of like be careful about. And then you want the content that you're using to sound like you. You want it to sound authentic. You want it to sound like it's your voice and your words. So a lot of times I'll use this AI stuff to help me kick something off if I'm feeling kind of blocked. But then I'll take it and I revamp it and make it sound more like I would speak. So I think like those are a couple things to think about. I do believe in using it and playing with it. I just don't believe in relying on it exclusively, because you just can't duplicate the human experience. So like if I'm using it to write a pitch, or I'm using it to write a social media caption, only I know like the story that might go with that. So like I'm the one that can tell that story because I'm the one that's lived it, not the computer, right? So just sort of thinking about stuff like that, like how do I make this more personal to me and therefore more relatable to my audience? So
100%. Yeah, no, it's definitely very bland. It's kind of like a Fiverr written article. Let's just be perfectly honest, which were written by humans, but humans who have zero context into
right.
brand style, tones, of cadence, whatever it is that people respond to, if it's a video or written for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it can be really good. Sometimes I'll tell it, oh, change this word to like a synonym for whatever, and it'll change it, but maybe that doesn't really fit the flow either. So it's not a perfect thing, but it can definitely help. I think kick things off. Maria, I've heard of realtors using this to write listing descriptions.
Oh,
Yeah.
and what is AR? What does that stand for?
AI stands for artificial intelligence.
AI. Okay.
So you can Google something called chat, like CHAT, G, P like Peter, and it's free to use. And
GPT.
GPT, sorry.
No
Yes,
worries.
forgot that. Like T like Tom. And so you can Google that, you go in there, and you basically, it's going to look like really funky. It's going to kind of look like a giant chat screen. It's just going to be blank, and it's going to have a bar at the bottom where you can type in anything you want. So in that bar, for example, you can write a listing description for this property, and you can put the address, and you can put the link to the property, whatever, and it'll spit out a listing description. You can say, write a post for Instagram about this house, and again, put the listing information in there, and it'll spit one out for you.
I like that idea. I'd rather edit than write.
There you go. So that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. So we do use it lightly internally, just because, again, like, we know, like, okay, we got to make it match each of our clients' messaging, their brand, their audience, their this and that. But sometimes it's a fun way to just kick some stuff off, save a little bit of time when possible. Sometimes I can't even use it to write. Sometimes it's junk. Like, I'm like, I can't use this. But it's interesting. So
I'll definitely check it out.
check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. Well, when all of the big boys are investing, I mean, I think I want to say ChatGPT, when big AI became a thing, I think it was a $10 billion investment from Microsoft into the service. So it's just like not a purchase, just an investment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of push behind it. So something's coming.
There is. I mean, it's disruptive in the manner that it has a lot of value, but there's a lot, like, again, it's never going to replace your personal experiences. So, like, people are using it. I talked about this last month, but people are using it to write blogs for their website. Well, that's great, but if you're using that for SEO and you want it to actually land with the people who are reading it, you need to make it personal. You need to put your stories in there. You need to put your solutions in there. You need to have your own inflections in there, because number one, that's what the reader's going to connect with, right? And number two, Google is looking for to meet quality parameters. So even though you're not duplicating content, and there's nothing against using AI content on your site or in your blog, if you really want it to rank well in Google's looking to make sure that it sounds like a person wrote it, and that it has personal, again, commentary of some sort, illustrating your expertise, stuff like that. So those are the types of things that are interesting. But it's good. It's a good place to get if you need like an outline for a blog. Hey, go do it, and then just edit it heavily to sound like you. So definitely value there. All right, and then the last thing that I'm seeing people really craving, and I don't know about you guys, is more authentic relationships and like communication, especially like in the digital space. So meaning that if, like, when people, like, when they just comment on something, oh, awesome, you're like, okay. But if they take the time to actually read it, or if someone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and they send me a message, and that DM message might be like, hey, are you interested in having someone grow your social media? And I'm like, clearly you didn't read my profile, right? So that kind of stuff, versus, hey, you know what, I really liked your post about XYZ because XYZ, would love to chat with you more about that. So just, again, being authentic and being real, and building leads online can feel like a numbers game, and like you're just chasing people because you got to kind of like have these massive numbers to get any significant leads. But I think more where we're paying more attention to people who are real and they are authentic and they're showing an interest in what we're doing. Are you guys noticing that?
Well, yes. So in all kinds of communication, I wouldn't even put it as, I mean, you're talking about texting with your friends, that like people want more engagement because there's so much. I mean, I imagine it's all the junk that we have to deal with, right? Like how many, messages do you get on Messenger from somebody from Nigeria, or, I was or like you said, super, you feel like you have to say happy birthday to the person when it's their birthday on Facebook and 500 other people have mentioned you on that. Like, for instance, I've started, when I see it's somebody's birthday, I send them a video. Like I took a quick video of me saying happy birthday and shoot them that, versus
That's awesome.
like just saying happy birthday, because I'm like, I will stand out.
Right.
I'll be the 10th, 100th text they received, but mine was different than all the other ones. So.
Yeah.
Because it was me, right? Because it was like, to your point, authentic. So yes, I want that more.
Yeah, so do I do. I really do. So I'm like the people that are taking the time. Like for a few weeks ago, a woman saw something that I posted on Instagram, and she reached out to me via email. She's like, "Hey, I really liked your post about this." And then in the email, she went on into like detail to talk about it was like a video I did. My videos are like 3 to 5 minutes long, but that's like forever in today's world, right? So she's like, but she clearly watched the whole thing because she's like, I really liked what you said about this, and I really, and I agree about that. Would love to get on a call with you to talk about whatever. And so I ended up like be like, yeah, you know what, let's connect because she's obviously taking the time to show I didn't feel like just another number, in other words. And I think that's what's happening is that we're so overly digitally connected that we're end up feeling like just a number. But I think particularly after COVID, we're more isolated than ever, even though we're having conversations like this and wherever else, it feels really, we're spread really thin. We feel really isolated. We're searching for meaning. And so when you're building those relationships as a marketer, I think when you have that marketing hat on, thinking about that, like how, like thinking about this is a human being and how do I build this relationship? And I'm finding value in that on both ends, as the giver and as the receiver. So I love that idea of sending the video birthday thing. Maria, are you seeing any of this in your world?
I don't do as much digital marketing as I probably should, keeping my name out there. Almost all of my business is personal referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Either friends, family, neighbors, prior customers. I've been very lucky that it's kept me extremely busy, but now it's getting a little tougher.
Yeah, yeah. It's everything in right now is like a little wonky. I feel like for sure, for sure.
Weird times. But you can use some of those same things in those personal referrals, Marie, like responding back. You know that 10 times when you get referred in an email, for instance, what you're going to get back is an email, an email introduction, what you're going to get back is an email saying, hey, yeah, sure, would love to connect. In fact, I just did that 5 seconds ago to someone. And I'm thinking now, man, you know what I should have done was shot a quick loom and been like, hey, would love to connect with you, and shot back again a little video versus just what they're accustomed to seeing every single time. This adds a little bit more. I was talking to another agent recently, and I use a lot of video proposals. So when I send out my insurance quotes, they come with like me explaining it. And she's like, well, how many people actually watch it? I'm like, I don't know, 3 out of 10. And she's like, well, that's not that many. I'm like, well, 11 out of 10 are impressed by it. So it doesn't really matter. I don't really care that they're not watching it, but they're telling other people about the video they didn't watch.
Yeah.
So,
It's true because you're standing out, right? You're taking the time to say, you know what, you're not just another proposal to me. You're important to me. Let me explain this to you without making you schedule to get on a call with me, and have, I mean, we can do that too, but like, it's an extra step. I mean, even someone like responding with like an audio message, if you're like video's not your thing, those land well because now you're hearing someone's voice. You can hear the tone. You can sense if they're excited or not, right? Because like if you send a message, hey, it's so great to connect with you. I can't wait to schedule a call. But versus if you write those same words as a text message, you can't pick up on that tone. So I love that.
And I'm not comfortable with videos. Audio I can do.
Oh, well, that's a good idea, though. I wouldn't have thought about the audio.
Yeah.
I guess I've just been doing the video for a bit. So my daughter says I have a video voice, which I think is hilarious.
What? A video what?
She says a video voice. She says I talk on the videos very differently than I talk like in real life. So she's like, Daddy, stop using your video voice. I'm like, all right.
Listen, that's a compliment from these kids today.
Maybe.
I think so. That's awesome. Well, Yeah, and people, I've seen people do audio messages on LinkedIn too. So instead of like typing back a message, sometimes every once in a while someone will send me an audio file too. I haven't personally played with that yet, but some people say that works really well too to help them connect with people.
Have you found, Misty, now that you're talking about LinkedIn, because it feels like you're probably spending a good amount of time on there now. Have you found any of the lead, like the paid version of LinkedIn, or because I mean I get those reach outs all the time, and I'll probably actually get hooked by maybe, I don't know, 1 out of 100.
Right.
And so I've always been weary of like trying to reach out to businesses that way. But I'm wondering if you're doing anything like that and if you've had any success.
Like a DM strategy.
Hmm.
So I'll do it. I worked with a company that they told me to do like this sort of like this massive strategy of just reaching out to all these people. And they seem to do, and some people do really well with that. But I think that like you have to be strategic. So like after I speak at an event, if I happen to get a list of who was in attendance, if it's digital, for example, last time I spoke at an event, I got a digital list. So what I did was I connected with each of them on LinkedIn, and one by one, it was like 100 people. And with each of them, I said, hey, so and so, happy to connect. It was great seeing you on XYZ presentation call or whatever. And sometimes they say, and I've had a few of those people be like, oh, yeah, like would love to learn more about you do. Like, let's schedule a call. So sometimes those things work. Sometimes I target very specific people who I know that are in very specific roles that I know that I want to have calls with. And so sometimes that leads to getting on a call and having meaningful conversation. So for you, it might just be like something, if you're going to do that, something personal to the small business owner, like, hey, hey, so and so, congrats on the opening of whatever, and then and then let them say, like, respond so that now it's a conversation. And then you can say, hey, I know, would love to learn more about what you guys are doing over there. And then just kind of like, like figure it out. Or maybe you do a free insurance review. I'm just making something up, but maybe you
That's
do.
okay. There's no such thing as a paid insurance review, but yeah, it's all good.
Okay. So maybe, hey, I'm just really passionate about small
Provide a
business.
value piece, basically.
Yeah.
Give something so that they're
Something, yeah,
obviously, yeah.
but highly targeted and highly valued. But like, I don't necessarily like starting off with that. I like sort of seeing if they're going to even respond to like, hey, it's so great to connect with you, and then adding something personal to that. I saw your post on this or whatever, and sometimes they'll be like, they don't respond. Sometimes it's just quick thank you. And then sometimes it leads to a bigger conversation, and then we're able to get on those calls, or I'm able to explain what it is, have the opportunity to explain what it is that I do. So what you have to do is try different methods and see like what people are going to respond to. Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, I think that, again, the thing with those is making it personal. Like, oh, okay, I noticed in your profile that you do this and that you volunteer here. Well, I also do this, this, and that. Seems like there's a lot of synergies, stuff like that. Same thing that you would do on like a face-to-face call, trying to find connections, trying to let the person know that you're paying attention to them.
Yeah, I always try to remind myself that all networking is networking. So it should be the same type of feel that I met them at the chamber event, or I met them at at a customer's grand opening, or whatever it is. It should always feel, because it's easy to forget that. Like for me, like I'm always that you to
No,
fall into the
for everybody.
trap. Yeah.
It's for everybody. That's why you need to sort of like, that's why people that they like, oh, they want you to do like they'll want you to do like these volumes and volumes of outreach. And to me, I have found better now. Maybe I'm holding myself back, but maybe I have found success in doing them in smaller numbers, more very targeted outreach.
Right. Well, and there's also a difference as to where you want to reach the person in the funnel and where the thought process is. It's a little bit different if you're selling, a widget versus, a consultancy, which requires a deeper level of trust or something of that nature,
Right.
right? So,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, well, those were my tips for today. Any other last minute questions?
But I want to thank you for always being so generous with your time.
Oh, thank you for
Sharing
showing.
ideas.
I will ditto that statement Marie just made, because you obviously are very well know what you're doing, and a half an hour with someone who knows what they're doing is valuable. So I want to thank you for taking the time and doing this.
Yeah, of course. And listen, we do this once a month, but always feel free to, if something comes up in between. I don't mind answering like quick questions about things. If you want full on consulting, that's different. But if you have like a quick question about something, just shoot me a message. I'm always available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Alex.
Pleasure meeting you too, Marie. Good luck with the audio calls.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good day, everybody.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.